afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming out to senior calling. Do something off here with Ranger County Police for those that do not know. And we have moved from our police substation on 197 to here to host a coffee with seniors, which is I think this is a very nice place for it, especially since it is a senior center. And I thank you guys for coming out. Today we have Bill McGowan with the emergency 911. He's managers for all the 911, so he's going to talk to us today about the 911 system. And after that, if you have any questions for him, please ask him, and then I will talk to you briefly, and I have some care packages for you guys also for today. So Bill, you know what?
You got my good side? I don't know that. What I thought I would do is, for quite a long time, we didn't go out to the community much, and then we realized that there's a big piece that we were missing. So we don't have a PowerPoint ready, and we don't have some of those other things, but we've been trying to follow a kind of little script. Okay, so I wrote a couple notes to myself just to make sure I kind of stay in line with that. There's probably 4 or 5 questions that we get asked about every time we go out and talk to people in the community. So what I thought I would do is go over those questions and give you the answers. And then if you have any questions after that, that's fine. You can certainly ask. If you unfortunately call 911 at some point and you didn't like the level of service that you got, when we're done, I'll go back room. We're happy to listen to you. And everything that we do is recorded on audio recorders, and every keystroke that the dispatchers and the call takers make is recorded also. So there's nothing secret about it. You can go back and research stuff for years if something went wrong. So one of the first questions we get is, when I call 911, who answers the phone? Well, we're not the fire department, and we're not the police department, and we're not the sheriff's department. That's a very important thing to remember, because a lot of people think when they call 911, we're going to get off the phone, get on a fire truck, and head their way. Or get off the phone, get in the police car, and head their way. And that's important because in a couple minutes I'll talk to you about some of the questions. So we're not those people, but we are the people that are going to put a call for service in so that those people will come to where you are. And we're also something a little bit more now. We're the person that's going to stay on the phone with you and give you instructions until they get there, which is a little bit different than the old days. Okay. Now, the people that answer the phone, and many of you in this room probably have sons and daughters that are in their early teens. So you know how it can be sometimes. We all have the same workforce that we're dealing with. So at times, some of my folks don't do things that I really would like them to do. But for the most part, they're extremely professional and they're well trained. Just to give you an idea, they go through 240 hours of classroom training, and then they go through 530 hours of on-the-job training with a call taker, what they call a certified communications training officer sitting right next to them. So they go through 240 hours of training and 540 hours of training before they take the first 911 call by themselves. That's how important we know this is. Before they take the first 911 call, they're nationally certified as emergency fire dispatchers, emergency police dispatchers, emergency medical dispatchers. They're certified in National Crime Information Center access. They've got the normal CPR and all those other things that everybody has. But they are trained to deliver a service to you over the phone that you used to get from people when they got to the scene. Okay. So it's not, obviously, we can't take you to the hospital over the phone, but we can tell you what to do to stop bleeding, to perform CPR over the phone. We can do all those things. And because we do so much, and because we're so highly trained, what we do is we have a quality assurance team, and their job is to review review 1,000 calls a month. So every call taker that works for us gets reviewed at least once a month. They do a formal case evaluation review on that call taker. They pick a call at random. They go in and they evaluate them for how they follow the protocols, but they also evaluate them for the customer skills score. Okay? And then they sit down and they review that with the employee, and it goes into the personnel file. Again, we're like everybody else. We make mistakes. We have some issues sometimes, but we have a very firm and established policy and program in place. We have a program where we award our employees that do a good job, and the ones that don't do a good job, we retrain them, we counsel them, and we discipline them. So we're very much aware of how important it is to make sure that when you get on the phone that you're not talking to an 18-year-old who's chewing gum and couldn't really care what your problem is. These people do care. Okay, the next question we get a lot of times is, can I actually get a busy signal or a recording when I call 911? Yes, unfortunately you can. What we do is we have a staffing level that is based on call volume, and we make predictions. And unfortunately, sometimes those predictions aren't accurate. There's no way that we can predict that this afternoon when we leave here at 3:30 that there's not a tire burning on the side of the road at Route 1 and Conti Road, and we would get 40 calls from people who are trying to tell us about that tire that's burning. Well, this afternoon I have 19 people on duty answering calls. So if 40 people call all at the same time, somebody's not going to get through. All right? But there's nothing we can really do about it. We could say that we have 863,000 citizens in Prince George's County, so we need 863,000 911 call takers. So if any point somebody calls, they'll get through. And I know that's ridiculous, but at the same time, you got to understand. You don't have to understand. I would ask you to understand that we are a county agency like everybody else. We have resources that are limited by the tax dollars. But our responsibility is to make the best use out of those resources that we get from the citizens. And we believe we do that. We do that by staggering the work schedules. We do that by the way we've established the program, the training to get people through it, to get them so they're more professional, they can handle the calls quicker, and they can get off the phone. So you could get a recording. What do you do if you get the recording? You really need to stay on the phone. And I know that probably violates everything we've been taught. If you get a recording, you hang up, you call back. Well, the problem is we have a computer system. And every time a call comes in, even before you hear that recording, we've got your number. And when you call 911, there's no assurance of privacy. Okay? When you call 911, you've made a request for help. So we capture your number automatically before we even answer the phone. Now, if you happen to decide that you don't want to hold for the couple seconds that it's going to take for us to get to you, and you hang up, what happens is we're required to call you back to make sure that you didn't have a heart attack or somebody didn't knock you over the head while you were waiting for us. Okay? So you're frustrated, you call 911, you get you get a recording, so then you hang up and you call back. So now I've got one call taker who now just got your number that appeared on their screen, so they call you back. You're calling in, so your phone is busy, right? So what happens next is she's still trying to get a hold of you, so she keeps calling you. Now you get frustrated because the people are trying to call you back and you're still trying to call, so you hang up again. So now I've got another call taker that's calling you a second time, and you're trying to call a third time. So every time you hang up and call back, somebody's got to call you and verify that there's not a problem before they can go on to the next call. But they can't reach you because you're frustrated and you're calling back, so the phone's busy. Now you can say, well, don't call people back. Well, there's a big problem with that. Yes, it doesn't happen every day, but there's a lot of situations where people as they're talking to us or waiting to talk to us, something goes wrong. And if we don't call those people back, they may not survive what we're saying. So that's why we have to do it. We do our best to not have you on hold. We do our best, but sometimes it just doesn't work. As far as the busy signal is concerned, you can actually get a busy signal, but a lot of times that busy signal will be if you call on a cell phone, because you can actually get a busy signal from the tower that you're calling from, especially a situation where, like I said, about the tire, Route 1 and Burkirk Road, if all 40 of those people call 911 at the same time and it hits the same tower, they can overwhelm that tower, and we don't even know. So there's a lot of good things about cell phones. It's instant notification, but there's a lot of bad things about cell phones. Okay? And right now, 70% of the calls that we get are on cell phones, believe it or not. Okay, so why did they ask what city I'm in? Well, what happens is you have a cell phone that may or may not be a brand new cell phone. If your cell phone is one of the newer models, and if you're like my mom who says, I've had this phone for 15 years and I'm not getting rid of it, well, that's fine. But her cell phone is the old technology. And when that number appears in front of the operator screen, we don't have any idea where she's at. Okay? We know that it's coming from a certain tower. But what happens is in the last couple of years, they've developed technology that we can tell within 300 feet where you are from your phone. Okay? So you've got these phones that don't say where you are, so we have to say where you at. You've got a big problem right over here because this is Baltimore Avenue. Okay? But when you get into Howard County, it's called Washington Boulevard. Is that correct? Okay. And people get confused when something's going wrong, and they'll say they're at so-and-so, so-and-so, and actually they're in Howard County, but they hit a cell phone tower in Prince George's County. And if we just say to them, are you in Prince George's County? And they'll go, no, I'm in Howard County. Okay, great. And we transfer to Howard County. Okay. That's the problem with the cell phones. The other problem is the voice over IP. You know, all the advertisements, Comcast, you can have your phone, you can have everything all rolled into one. Well, that's fine, but what happens is you give your information to Comcast, and you're relying on Comcast to have somebody there transfer your information from where you are to Comcast, then it goes to Verizon, because Verizon nationally is the one that controls the 911 system. If anything goes wrong in that transfer, then there's a problem. Perfect example is we had a lady on the phone whose husband was having a heart attack, and she was in the 26, I can't remember the exact address, but it was 26-something Winter Green Avenue. Now, for those of you on the north side, you may not know where that is, but everybody that works in the south side knows that's in District Heights. Winter Green Avenue is a pretty well-known street. And we were on the phone with her for 18 minutes while the fire trucks were trying to find her. And her husband was not breathing. So we're trying to give instructions over the phone and trying to get the fire truck to her house, an ambulance and a medic unit. And about 18, 19 minutes into the conversation, the call taker said, you're in District Heights, right? And she said, where the F is District Heights? I'm in Baltimore. So because she had a voice over IP phone, we're not blaming Comcast because it can happen. So we know she's there. Now we got it, so we transferred the call. We had a situation where some people have, they put their phones so they work through their computer and their laptop. We had a 911 hang-up call that we called back, and it showed that they were on Van Buren Street in Fort Washington. They were actually on vacation in Korea when we got through to them. Okay? So again, technology is great. Technology can sometimes get you in trouble. So what we told our call takers was, ask the people, you know, okay, I'm at 7120 Conti Road. Is that in Prince George's County? Well, your first reaction is, geez, oh, flip, don't you know where you are? I pay you out of my taxes to know where I am. Don't you know where Conti Road is? Yeah, I know where Conti Road is, but I want to hear you say it. Just tell me that you're in Prince George's County. And if you do that, they're gone. You're off. Okay? You move on to the next question. Now, as far as those folks in here that may live in the city of Laurel, what happens there is we still get your 911 call. If it's a fire or an EMS incident, then we'll handle it like we normally do. If it is a call that's in the city, and the City of Laurel Police have jurisdiction, it'll show up on our screen that the City of Laurel will transfer you to their dispatcher, and then they take the call and everything else. Okay? So we ask where you're at because we don't always know where you are, and mistakes can happen. Please don't perceive that as we don't know where Conti Road is, or we don't know whatever. We just want you to tell us to make sure, because if there's a situation, we want to make sure we can get help to you. The next thing that we get a lot of times is, they say, why do you ask so many questions? Well, the first question we ask you is, what is the location of your emergency? We ask you that for a couple of reasons. One is because we've got, if you've got calling from your house, we've got your address in front of us. If you're calling from a cell phone, we either got, pretty close to your location, or we've got the tower location. But we want to know exactly where you are, so if something happens to the phone, we can still get somebody to you. Okay? But the other reason why we say what is the location of your emergency is because a lot of times people say, well, it isn't an emergency. Okay, then that changes the whole ball game here. Okay? You need to be handled by non-emergency because you're tying up the 911 numbers. Or they'll say, well, actually it happened, or that kind of thing. So we ask you, what's the location of your emergency? We establish right away you've got an emergency. 7120 Conti Road. Okay. What's the number you're calling back from? What's the number you're calling from? And they say, don't you know it? Yes, we know it, but we want to make sure we've got the right number because, again, mistakes happen. I'm calling from whatever. Okay, good. What's your name? Well, why do we need to know your name? Because we're trying to get people to say, Miss Jones, and as things go worse, if a situation starts to develop and it gets worse, let's say you're trapped in a fire and we need to get your attention, it's much better to say, Miss Jones, can you hear me? Than ma'am. Okay? It's more personal and it helps us establish a rapport with you. So those are the questions we ask, and then we say, tell me exactly what happened. And you say, well, my car got broken into. Okay, we've got that. Now, depending on what you say, if you say my house is on fire, the dispatcher the call taker is typing all this stuff into a computer while you're saying it. And if you say my house is on fire, she pushes a button and it goes over to the fire dispatch. Okay? So then she starts asking you more questions. And that's when most people start to get upset. Because they say, okay, I've told you where I am, I've told you my number, and I've told you my name, and I've told you what happened. Just get here. They're on the way. We're sending them. Okay? But now, we're going to stay on the phone with you, and we're going to see if there's something we can do to help you. Give you an example. The old days, we get a phone call, and the phone call we got, I'll tell you about in a minute, but this is how it used to work. 911, what's your emergency? Blah, 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 blah. I'm having a baby. Okay, no problem. Go on the way. And we would hang up the phone. Nowadays, we stay on the phone. We put the call in for somebody having a baby, and they stay on the phone. In March of this year, and there's probably been more since then, but I just remember this one in March. The lady said she was having a baby, so they started asking her questions. And as they started asking questions, they realized that she was giving birth over the phone. Okay, for years we gave birth. I didn't. At home. They didn't go to hospitals. So what's the big deal about a birth? Well, okay, most of them can come along pretty well. But this particular case, when they asked the question, they said, well, the baby's hand is coming out. So for those of you that may have some medical background, you know that's a breech birth. That's a very, very serious birth. Okay, now remember, if she hadn't stayed on the phone with that lady, she wouldn't know that. Okay, all talk to her about the birth. She tells them, so she says, okay, I'm going to tell you what to do. She tells the woman how to deliver the baby over the phone. She tells her to squat. She tells her to push. She tells her to act like you're peeing. All these things that sound disgusting, but these are all the things that made that baby come out. Okay? Now, again, if the baby had not been, if she didn't know this, the ambulance would be coming, but they wouldn't be getting any help. So when the baby delivered, the baby wasn't breathing. So then what the call taker did is gave the woman over the phone instructions on how to give the baby infant CPR. And that baby lived. Now, 10 years ago, there's a good chance that baby wouldn't have made it. Because between the time they called and the time the ambulance got there, which usually takes 3 or 4 minutes at least, that baby would not have made it. Okay. So there's a reason why we ask questions. We ask questions so that we can help you until they get there. Sometimes there's not a lot we can do for you, but sometimes we'll ask questions for officer safety. We'll ask you if you have a description of the suspect. Are they armed? Are they this? Are they that? So not everything we do is designed to help you, because there's sometimes when you don't need the help. Sometimes it's the police officer that needs the help. And if we get a good description, and it's always a standard series of questions, as they're coming into the neighborhood, they may see that car leaving that we just told them was coming in, and they can grab it. Again, remember, we're on the phone with you, but that's not holding us up from dispatching. Other people are already dispatching those units to help you. Okay, and the last question we get an awful lot is, when should I use 911 and when should I use the non-emergency number? Now, for those of you that don't know, we've changed the non-emergency number. It's not 333-4000 anymore. Okay. We had to do that because we moved from Largo out to Bowie. And the phone company runs the world. So the phone company said, you can't have 333-4000 anymore. You have to have a 352 exchange now because you're in Bowie. So now the non-emergency number is 301-352-1200. Could we have gotten a better number? Could we have gotten a more recognizable number? The phone company said you have 301-352-1150 to 301-352-1300. That's the number we're going to give you. So we had to go in there and pick out a number that would work. So we thought 352-1200 would be the closest, most recognizable number out of the series that they gave us. The thing that we've done to try to make it, because the same people that answer the non-emergency calls are answering 911 calls. We're all in the same room. They're all in the same room. So we put a phone tree on there, and that's upset a lot of people also. But over 25% of the calls that we get on a non-emergency phone are from people who are just looking for information. They just want to know, they want to be able to get a hold of a police officer. They want to know what to do if they got a traffic ticket, if they got a parking ticket, those kinds of things. What we're trying to say is when you call 352-1200, you're calling because you want us to send you a police officer. You need to talk to a police officer, but you don't need him in an emergency situation, but you need him. So we're trying to tell everybody, if you need the dispatch of a police officer, call us. If not, call somebody else. We've actually become the 311 for Prince George's County. And that's not what our job is supposed to be. We're supposed to be able to dispatch police, fire, sheriff, non-emergency to you or emergency to you. I think those are the 5 questions that most people ask, and I think that's a pretty general idea of what we do. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am. Melford Boulevard in Bowie is where we're at now. And for those of you that may say, wow, why did you move? Well, we were the only, it's called a public safety answering point. We were the only PSAT in the state of Maryland that didn't have a backup. Okay, if our 911 center went down, we had to go over to police headquarters and take phones out of a wardrobe and set them up on tables. That was our backup center. So we've been fighting for years to get a backup center. And what they did is they said, well, the state gave us the money, grant money, and we went and we built a new center, and now we're converting our old center in Largo as a backup center. So we have a place to go.
You said there was an area along Route 197 where you had trouble getting your sections. Can you tell them a lot of people live?
Okay. All right. When we went to the West Laurel meeting, today I used the example of Washington Boulevard and Baltimore Avenue, but at the other meeting I was talking about 197 because we just had a problem there. For some reason, 197 between Powder Mill Road and pretty much where the Bowie College is, there's not a whole lot along there as far as side streets and things like that. But the way the line of sight is, if you call 911 along that stretch, there's like a 90% chance it's going to go to Anne Arundel County. Okay? And that's usually not a problem because we work very closely together with them, and they work with us. But depending on how the phone is transferred to us, it may or may not come with all that information I was talking about before. Okay? So we had a situation where there was a brush fire on 197. It was not a major situation because, there's plenty of woods there, but it was a small fire on the side of the road. And the lady that was calling us was very upset because we were trying to find out where she was on 197. And she was saying, can't you tell, don't you know? Well, her call originally went to Anne Arundel County. They transferred it to us. And when we got it from them, the screen was blank, so we had no information. And she's basically somewhere between Powder Mill Road and Bowie State University trying to tell us. So obviously we said, okay, we'll send somebody from each way. But we were trying to get an idea of where it was. And she got very frustrated with us, but she later understood. So that's something to keep in mind. Your phone, the cell phone, can go anywhere. Now, the FCC is working on a system right now where it's called Next Generation 911. And what they're trying to do is make it so if you call 911 from that same place, and now today it goes to Anne Arundel County, with Next Generation, it would go to that cell tower. That cell tower would say, where are you at, in its own mind, figure out you're in Prince George's County, and it would route the call to us. So the technology is there, it's being developed so that we can do that. But we had a problem all the time along the borders, Montgomery County, Anne Arundel, Howard County, Charles County, and the District of Columbia also. We have a terrible time at National Harbor because all the phones at National Harbor go across the river to Alexandria because the cell phone tower at the Basin Masonic Temple in Alexandria, the cell phone tower is inside the temple. And it's a straight shot from National Harbor across the river to the temple. And they're kind of down in a hill. So when they call us, the phone goes across the river to Alexandria, and then they send it back to us. Well, there's no way ever does this information transfer across state lines. Now, I don't know why, it's a phone company issue. But every call we get from National Harbor, when it shows up on our screen from the cell phone, there's no indication of where the people are. So you have to question them and question them and question. So, a couple people raise their hands, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Is the same confusion occur when you're using a landline?
No, ma'am. No. There is always the potential for something to be wrong. There is the potential for, and I think we talked at the West Laurel meeting, we kind of talked about the fact that Laurel is one of those kind of areas where one house is in the city and maybe the next one over isn't. It kind of goes like this a little bit sometimes. There's a chance that your call is routed to the wrong center, but 9 times out of 10, well, almost 100% of the time, the call is routed correctly because the phone company is responsible for that, and they're the only ones that do it, so there's no mistakes. We very seldom have this situation. When we do find out about it, we notify the phone company and they take care of it right away. So, somebody else was, yes, sir.
It's a quick question. If I have a problem, like somebody's going to be breaking into my house and hold mine on like you should, I'm panicking. And as you say, once that call goes in, you're saying it's breaking in, and you're already sent to police. But should we listen and just answer the questions? Or how do you defuse me when somebody almost in my house and, well, he's here, and I don't want to listen to you. I'm going to tell you, how do you do that? Because it's natural.
Yes,
That's why you're answering the question.
and what they call it in the industry is repetitive persistence. Okay? And what the call taker is supposed to do is take charge of you. The call taker is supposed to be assertive enough to convince you that help's on the way, this isn't delaying anything, and you just get through this. Okay? Unfortunately, most of them will say, look, I got to ask these questions. Okay? Because we actually, and I don't know if I told you this already, we get 5,500 calls a day. Okay, that's how many calls we get. So each call taker in the course of a 12-hour shift would take 300 to 400 calls. And the last three that they talked to, they really set them the wrong way. And now you just happen to be the unfortunate person that's got a real emergency. But we can't tolerate that. They've got to be the same with everybody. But it doesn't mean that they won't say, sir, will you just listen to me? And a 40-year-old gentleman such as you are, if you have a youngster saying to you, would you just listen to me? That's going to piss you off. Okay? And I completely understand that. So we talk to them all the time and say, there's certain ways you talk to people. We have actual classes to talk to people about how to deal with people that are having a crisis and get them focused, but without being disrespectful. But it doesn't always work. But that's where the conversation comes in. And what we normally do, I'll be perfectly honest with you, my judge of how things sound is when I listen to a call. I'll get you this. When I listen to a call, if somebody complains, the first thing that comes to your mind, if I hear Doug Buchanan say, eyewitness news is learned, and then I hear this call, if I heard that on Channel 9, would I be getting under the table and going, oh my God, or would I be going, hey, they did pretty good, okay? That's what I use as a judge, because if I don't want the public to hear that, then obviously it wasn't very good, it wasn't very professional. So, yes, sir.
Yeah, regarding the suitability of calls to 911, there's a couple of questions. If you can sort of quantify this, about what percentage roughly of the calls to 911 turn out to be not emergencies? That's question one.
Well, it depends.
Can you ballpark that, or is it unfair?
It varies every day.
Sure.
It varies by the weather. About 60% of the calls that we get are not of an emergency nature.
Okay, and on the other side of that?
The 25%,
Yeah.
we don't even have to dispatch for, and about 60%. So you see those true emergencies, they're not that many.
On the other side of that, can Verizon or somebody, have they been able to show you how many calls to 911 could not get through?
Yes.
And what's your overage?
Well, there's a standard, it's called P.01. It's a
Okay.
national standard. Okay? And we just had a study done by Verizon. And what that says is that the standard is 1 out of every 100 calls doesn't make it through. And that's what they use as a standard to say you need this many trunks, you need this many people on duty, those kind of things. We've actually got more trunks than we need. When we moved from the old center to the new center, we used to have 10 911 cell phone trunks. Now we've got 16. So we increased it, anticipating that cell phone calls would continue to go up.
And you have comparable staffing for that? And you have the adequate staffing for that?
No, we don't always. Like I said earlier, it varies. Our biggest call volume is between 4 in the afternoon and 8:30 at night, believe it or not. Okay? A lot of people would think it would be in the morning, but it's actually between 4 and 8:30. So we have what we call a power shift. And instead of 6 people coming in, we have 13 people on a shift. And instead of all 13 coming in at 6:30 at night and work until 6:30 next morning, 6 of them come in at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and start their night work. Now they leave early, they leave at 2:30 in the morning when most of the bars are closed. And then the morning shift, instead of all 13 coming in at 6:30 in the morning, they don't come in until 10, and they work until 8:30. So between 4 in the afternoon and 8:30 at night, we've got extra people there to take that extra amount of calls. But there's always going to be that situation where we don't have enough people for all the incoming.
Well, without nailing you down to a figure, it sounds like you're less than 5% of incoming calls get rejected for busy. If the standard is 1%, so you're doing close to 1%.
Well, I can tell you that out of the 5,500 calls we get, okay, every day, we dispatch about 550, 600 fire EMS calls. Now, they're not always an emergency. Sometimes it's an odor of smoke and it turns out to be nothing. Sometimes it's, having a heart attack and it turns out to be stomach pain. So, yeah, it's very difficult to lock this down. What is an emergency? What isn't?
Yeah.
But out of the 550 or 600 fire EMS calls we get, we put in about 3,500 police calls a day. Okay. Now, not all those police calls are calls that we've dispatched. Some of them are self-generated by the police officers themselves, but that's about how many we have. So, probably 20–25% of what we get every day is a true emergency. It doesn't fit the numbers I was telling you, but I'm kind of trying to go off my head too.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, and I'll hold that question on later.
Yes.
Question, your first question, popular question, said if there is a busy signal, you gave us 2 scenarios. Which is the most effective way? Do you hold and wait for someone to come on the line?
Yes.
Or do you hang up and just wait for someone to call you back?
No, you wait for somebody to come on. Yes.
I have one other question. You said that your new policy starting in March where people stay on the line until someone arrives at the scene where they were.
Well, no, actually it's been for about 2 or 3 years.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
so that had to increase your staffing significantly.
It increased the amount of time. Now, not everything's a true emergency. We stay on the line with somebody, we'll ask them.
Yeah.
If somebody says, I don't feel good, okay, we'll ask a certain amount of questions, and then we'll give them what we call pre-arrival instructions. We'll say to them, okay, can you make sure all the pets are in another room? Can you get your medicines together? If it's nighttime, we'll say, can you turn on your outside light? Is the door unlocked? Those kinds of things. And then we'll say, if it gets any worse, call me back. Okay. That kind of thing. And like on a police call, what they'll say is, do you feel safe and out of danger? And the person will say, yes or no. And they say, no. Okay. Tell me if you feel, if at any point you feel in danger, tell me. So they're asking you if something changes while I'm talking to you, let me know. And based on how the conversation's going is whether or not they'll stay on the phone. There's some people that heard a noise in their house or heard a noise outside of the house, but they still want that call taker to stay on the phone with them, even though their house is locked, they've got an alarm. So if they ask, we'll stay on the phone. So yes, it does create issues with us. But what we're thinking is, we've got a situation right now that we know exists, and we're dealing with that situation. We're not, you can always say, what if? What if somebody else calls or whatever. But we know right now we've got somebody that needs help, so we're trying to help. That's what we're really doing. You can kind of look at it Yes? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Some people wear the medical alert. Is there any connection?
Yes. Now, what happens is, when you push that, well, for most of the companies, when you push the medical alert button, it goes to a dispatch or a call center somewhere, probably in Wisconsin or something like that, okay? Now, what they do is, depending on who you have, they will ask you some questions, and then they'll call us. We give them a special 10-digit number that they can call, so it comes in on what we've identified as an alarm line. Now, the thing that we've done in Prince George's County that nobody else has done in the state is because we were moving into a new facility, we had an opportunity to redesign things. We separated out the medical alarms from the property alarms. Okay? There's a big difference between somebody having chest pains and pushing their medical alert and somebody that accidentally left their door unlocked and the wind blew it. Okay? But under the old system and everywhere else in the state of Maryland, you come in on the same line, you come in on an alarm. But we have tried to give all the medic alert companies a special line that has a priority over the property alarms. So the first priority we get is a 911 call. The second priority is a medical alarm. Then it's a property alarm, and then it's an ambulance.
You're in a situation where you don't have anyone to send to answer the call.
It depends on what kind of call you're talking about. If you're talking about a police call, well, let me tell you first on the fire EMS side. And before I got this job, I worked for the county fire department for 24 years. I retired as the deputy fire chief in charge of operations for the whole county. Okay? Now, our philosophy in the fire department was, we don't care if you're in Baden, you need an ambulance, the closest ambulances come from Laurel or send them. Okay? The police department had a little bit different philosophy. The police department has districts, and they want to have community policing in that district, and they want that officer to handle that call. So if it's a certain priority call, we can send a police officer from anywhere. But if, as the priority goes down, we're limited in who we can send. They want us to send the officers out of the District 6 station, the Bellsville station, to anything in this particular area. If it's a life-threatening emergency, we can send an officer from anywhere. But there's certain things, we have certain criteria. So, yes, sir.
Related to that, Prince George's County Fire, Police, and EMS publish their call for service data through websites like crimereports.com. And it's my understanding that that call for service data is created in your center as a result of the incoming call and dispatch process. So if an officer or a fire department or EMS are actually dispatched, I guess my question is, at what point is the call for service created? And if the call for service is not created, and I think I want to separate the idea of the dispatch of a police officer from creating a call for service. So the idea is, you realize there's a need. You want to call a police officer to the scene. You do certain things, one of which is to create, I guess, a call for service. And then we would see a record of that in the public. But if you don't create a call for service, you know, if there's just a call into you, and your operator, your person decides not to dispatch, what happens then? Is there any record left behind of that call other than the tape recording?
It depends on what, if you call and hang up.
Oh, no, I'm just talking about if you call and talk to somebody and one way or another is determined not to send a service, not to send a police, fire, or EMS for some reason.
It depends.
Do you still create a call for service?
It depends.
Oh, okay.
It depends. Now, what we do is every time we transfer, like Laurel has their own police department and their own police dispatcher. City of Greenville has their own. Okay. But what happens is they don't have the same information in front of them that we do. Okay? So what we started doing is when we transfer a call to the city of Laurel, even though we've sent that caller, we still make an incident report. It's a very simple, very quick process, but what we do is we capture all that data that we had from you calling, and it stays in our record. And then the call, but the call's already been transferred to Laurel. And that way, if once you get to Laurel and they have a problem or whatever, they can call us back and say, what was the last location that you had? So we create a call there. Whenever anybody calls and hangs up, we create a call because we're covering our butts to let them know that there was a call and we tried to call you back. When you call, if you give us any indication at all that you want to see a police officer, we're supposed to send them. And when I say we're supposed to, that's not the police department that's telling us that. That's us telling our own people. And it's on board. When in doubt, send them out. Okay? That's what we do. There may be times when a person on the phone will say, well, if you had an accident, the police are going to come. They're just going to tell you to exchange information. And why don't you just exchange information, and that way you don't do that kind of thing. Okay, I had the same issue in my other job when people would show up and say, well, you really want to go to the hospital because you're just going to sit in the emergency. So our philosophy at 911 is when you call, if you want to see a police officer, we'll send you one. Okay, and that's the bottom line. So the majority of the times there is a call created, an incident created. And what happens is we have a computer-aided dispatch, and that is our system. Now, the police department have a link, it's called RMS. They have a link that goes into our system, and the fire department and the sheriff department has a link. So they go into our system, and they extract the data that they want for their crime reports or their response reports or whatever. We don't supply that data to them. They come and they pull it automatically through their records management system.
So they can get more or less of that data as they choose.
Yes.
Okay, follow-up question related to that. If an incident's going on, and I would like a policeman to be sent, but I don't want to personally speak to the policeman. In particular, if I don't want to be exposed as the person who called, I'm revealing to you, but I don't want to reveal to my neighbors.
Right.
Is that still a call for service? Can you still dispatch on that basis?
Yes.
And advise the officer not to come looking for me?
Yes. Now, before we had the protocols that we're using now, there was a specific question. Do you want to see an officer? And if they said yes, then in the CAD, the report that goes to the dispatch that goes to the officer, it said signal for the complaint. That's the police code for receiving a complaint. The new protocols that we have do not have that question in there. That's not one of them. But we actually we were able to get one of our people from our training division that sits on the National Academy for all these dispatch things. And we've told her that we need to submit a proposal for change, and they're going to do that. So that's one of those questions.
Thank you.
You can tell them, I do not want to see a police officer. The problem with that is you may say, they didn't come down the street, and we know what they told us on the radio, and we assume they went there, but...
And they'll be a lot more effective if they can talk to the complainant, because they'll have more on-the-ground information when they arrive. But I just wanted to know whether you counted that as a call for service.
Yeah, there's times when they want to tell they want an officer to come, but obviously they don't want those kids coming to their house after the officer leaves. Completely understand that, and you can say that. You can say that you just want to remain anonymous. And the information that's captured, it'll be on that report, but they won't give it, they'll tell the officer, don't see the person. And there are times when they make a mistake. There are times when they forget to tell them, and we've had some very upset people, that either have said they wanted to see a police officer and that didn't get passed on, or they didn't want to see him and it didn't get passed on. It happens rarely, but it does happen.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Good. Put anybody to sleep? All right. Very good. Well, I certainly appreciate your patience and
Give me 1 second.
All good questions.
I want to thank Ben for coming out.
send it to 911 customer service, you know, and I hate to do the rest of it, but it's at co.pg.md.us.
What about, did you talk about Comcast in case you move? If you have it on the television and then you move?
Okay, but yeah, if you have voice over IP, you really need to call Comcast or Vonage or whoever you have your system with and let them know you moved. That's extremely important because they're going to give us, when that 911 call hits us, we're going to receive the last address that you reported to your phone carrier. With Verizon, they automatically notify us when you move, but with the other companies, they don't. So
if you call 911, your own address will come up for that. When you move.
thank you again, I appreciate it.
All right. Before you guys leave, there's a few things that I want to bring to your attention. One, Prince George's County Police, we are doing a coat drive right now. I know you guys have definitely participated last year and years beforehand, so please, if you have any coats, you can drop them off at our stations. And if you have a senior center or apartment complex, you can call myself or the cop's office and we'll come out there and pick them up for you also. And we are also doing a canned food drive for the holidays also. So same thing, you can bring it to the station, get a hold of myself or PFC in Hamilton or the cops unit over there also. And if you can't pick them, if you can't deliver them also, because you know cans can get heavy, we'll pick them up for you also. December the 1st, mark this in your calendars, I got a special guest speaker coming. It's going to be the Chief of Police. All right, so let everybody know. And he will be here from 1 to 1:30. I just got it confirmed, and he will be coming out here to speak with you guys and meet with you, and it will be here. It definitely will be here, and depending on how many people we do get, we may have to expand and get a bigger room. I know last time we had a smaller room, now we got this room, so hopefully it triples the size next time for December, especially with the chief coming. You make me look good. But I got somebody here also that I want to introduce to you guys also. He's our new captain, Captain Tyler. If you would like to come up here, introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Captain Tyler. I'm the new Assistant Commander of District 6. It's a pleasure to be here. Not a whole lot I can say yet, but it's a beautiful center. It's the first time I've been in here. I've heard about it, but seeing it, believe. You're in good hands with Officer Henry. There's absolutely nothing that I can add to what he's doing. I just want to introduce myself, say hello, let you all know that I'm here to provide you with whatever service that you need, you know, within my scope of my authority. I firmly believe, you know, I've been around for a long time, and I actually, as a young officer, was a community police officer, just kind of like a community police officer. The way the community policing within this agency has grown, it speaks about it. And hands down, I think your service are probably one of the best community policing units anywhere in the police department. I'll stack them up against everybody. But I'm going to leave a couple of cards with PFC Hipper, so they have my number, my email address. Call me if you need anything. Call me just to say hi. I'm gonna try to. Most of my career has been on the southern end of the county, so the northern end is new for me. So it's a learning curve to work with. But I'm here for you, as is Major Brewer, who you all been working with now for the past year. You know, he's a great guy. You know, we're just here to do whatever we can to improve the community, make your life better, safer. So, like I said, reach out to me whenever you feel the need. Like if you just want to say hi, or if you actually need something, I will be, the major and I will be trying to make a lot more of these meetings. Hopefully you'll see us a lot more frequently, depending on our schedule. But
non-perishable items is what can go into the boxes also. So please, if you have any, we do a big canned food at Bunker Hill Firehouse, and all the community officers, we get together and we stack boxes and give them out to the needy every year. So that's one of the things. And also we're going to do Toys for Tots, and that's going to be coming up soon also. So please, if you know anybody, where you guys are going to drop off toys, canned food, coats. It is the season. 'Tis the season. 50-something days until Christmas, right? Only how many? 22 days until Thanksgiving, something like that. So definitely, we're going to have a lot of projects going on within the cops unit and throughout the community. So every little bit helps. And I know Ms. Beth Evans and Mr. Joanna Flowers and Mr. Gary Stone all have the websites for West Laurel, South Laurel, Central Laurel. So please get it out onto your websites and let people know that yes, the chief is coming next month for the 1st. That is confirmed, and we are having all these other events that we can get back to the community where we can reach out. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask me, and I will have a blank piece of paper in the back for you guys and some handouts as you're leaving for your email, also to keep you updated about regular scheduled meetings that are going on throughout your community. All right. And I greatly appreciate everybody coming out. Bless you, sir. And hope to see you again. Okay.
Go ahead. Don't worry about that.
97.
It's easier for them with food just to keep it like out front, not
I need your name. I'm going to put all that, your name and your information on.
Oh, on it.
Well, which is on there? You were here.
There's a